Greetings, mortals, and welcome to Bullet Journaling for Chronic Pain. My name is Emma, your resident chronically ill human, and this is my June bullet journal setup, time-lapsed for your convenience. And now begins the very rambling stream of consciousness voiceover. I do hope you enjoy. So a little backstory on me. I am a 34-year-old lady, and I have been some version of chronically ill for over 2/3 of my life at this point, which I don't recommend, friends. If you can choose to not be in pain all the time, zero stars. Would not recommend. But a few years ago, it became incredibly important that I start keeping up with my symptoms on a daily basis so that I can look at if there are any trends in how my symptoms show up over longer periods of time. And so I reverted to using some form of journaling to do this because my little sensitive artistic spirit has just always loved an agenda and a planner, a diary. I've always loved being able to write down my thoughts and feelings throughout the weeks, months, years of my life, and so I started doing that for my health as well. Now, what you're seeing here is the system that I've been developing ever since I was introduced to bullet journaling last October. I know I am years late to the trend, but hey, everybody finds things in their own time, right? So, I discovered that I could create my own planner, essentially, which is what bullet journaling is, being able to kind of take a blank notebook and just turn it into whatever you need it to be. And so this is what I've come up with. For those of you interested, I am using a B5 sized notebook, the dot grid style with the white pages, and it's been fabulous. It's been awesome. B5 is larger than A5, which is the normal quote-unquote size that I feel like a lot of people are familiar with. And I B5 gang forever, honestly. It just gives you so much more space, which for something like a pain chart is perfect. So in the video, you'll see me referring to my pain chart from May to make sure that I'm transferring over all of the things that I still want to keep track of for June. But this setup is so much more easy and streamlined than when I first started creating it last fall. Because originally I was hand drawing with a pen and ruler all of these grid squares myself to put the entire month on just this 2-page spread. And for all of my fellow chronically ill folks out there, y'all, you know that we can't be doing these repetitive tasks like drawing a bunch of lines and squares and not have our hands absolutely just fall apart from being so stiff and achy. It's not cute. It's not cute. We want to work smarter, not harder. It took a long time, and usually I would have to stop halfway through to take a break because my fingers were getting so stiff and it was painful. So I was inevitably smudging the ink, and so I finally just figured I'm gonna buy some graph paper. I'm gonna buy some graph paper that already has these grids made for me, and I'm just gonna cut them out and paste them in, and then the only thing I actually have to write are the symptoms that I'm tracking and then the numbers for the dates of the month across the top. Perfect. Bingo. Perfection. We love it. It's made everything so much easier. So for what's on my chart specifically, you'll see that the lower 2/3 of the page are the individual symptoms that I'm tracking, and then I just put an X in the box corresponding to the day that those symptoms showed up. And then the top third, I have a few kind of like trend line graph sections, specifically for my pain levels, what I would consider the overall pain levels for any given day. And then I have fatigue as well as brain fog. Fatigue and brain fog I measure on a low to mid to high basis. So those graphs at the end of the month are just sort of like a little peaks and valleys trend line of noticing when the fatigue and the fog were at high levels, mid levels, low levels. If they ever get to low, it's rare, but occasionally it does happen. And then the pain at the top, I have using the actual pain scale that the medical world uses from 0 to 10. It's a little bit arbitrary, it's very subjective, but it does kind of help communicate if you had to rate it on a scale, how bad is your pain in any given moment. 0 to 10, 0 meaning I'm in zero pain, everything's fine, woo! Or 10 being this is the absolute worst pain I have ever felt, help, I'm dying, right? It's incredibly subjective, but it's what your doctors ask for, so that's what I started tracking. My pain is kind of always sitting around a casual 5, usually. I'm never in the super low numbers, so in my chart, I don't even track anything less than a 3. I do give myself the less than 3 space or a 4, just in case I have a really good day, but the majority of the time I'm in that upper range. So I have less than 3 up to 10, and then I just fill in the square corresponding to the number for that day and the date, and that way I can kind of see how everything is playing out. So I have my pain, my fatigue, and my brain fog end up looking like little graphs by the end of the month, and then all of the other symptoms are very specific things that I'm just tracking whether or not those happened on any specific given day. So I am tracking a lot of pelvic pain symptoms, a lot of bladder and bowel related pains and issues, as well as back pain, pain in my arms, legs, hands, feet, neck, shoulders, extremities, anything, headaches, migraines, if I had high anxiety or panic that day as well, whether or not I had a fever or a cold or any kind of illness that was happening in addition to the other pain that I have. So this has been so helpful for me because I've been able to go to my doctors and just whoosh, open the journal and say, here you go, here's my data that I have collected, you're welcome. And it's been really helpful, and all of my doctors have been like, this is great, we love this. So I am sharing it here for all of you in case it's something that you might find useful. Now, on the next couple of pages, the spread that I have immediately after my big ol' honkin' pain chart is kind of a self-care activity spread, but it's also acknowledging symptom tracking as well. I use graph paper here too, and this is where I create a little hand-drawn image to track my moods, because I have noticed that it's really helpful to track, okay, my pain was this, my fatigue and my brain fog was this, but I was in a relatively good mood that day because of some other things, or my mood was actually tanked and I'm a walking zombified corpse and it's related to how high the pain was, or what have you. So I have the pain chart, and then I flip over and I have kind of the self-care activities of, was I able to take a walk that day? Did I do physical therapy that day? Did I sing or dance or write? Or did I Did I remember to take a shower? Sometimes it's super hard when anxiety is high and the depression is high and the pain is high. It is very difficult to convince yourself that you are capable of doing any of these self-care tasks. And so I like to track those as well, mostly just to give myself an opportunity to like see them written out. That way I can notice what it is I am able to do a little easier than others, things that I'm not doing as much as I want to be doing them, so that way I know what to focus on for the next month. And then, because so much of my pain is abdomen and pelvic related, I do also track if I am having pain with any intimate physical contact, any sexual contact with my partner, and that has been very helpful for communicating with my doctors as well. Listen, it's all part of it. It's all part of the pain and illness that I live with on a daily basis. I don't know if you knew, but chronic means all of the time, forever, essentially. Haha. Oh God. So it's been really useful for me to be able to look at kind of the trends of the past few months. So after the pain chart and after the self-care tracking charts, I just have a big old calendar for the month. So I just worked on the June one. It's helpful for me to just have a big visual map of the weeks ahead, and that way I can just write all of my doctor's appointments and events and whatever plans I have just right in those little boxes, and I can see it all at a glance, and that's been super helpful for me. So I've created this little like Dutch door situation where I cut the pages in closer to the middle, and so it's a literal shorter page. That way I can just kind of flip through, and I've got my big June calendar, and then I flip the smaller page and I've got sort of a glance ahead at July and August. And then on the back of that, before I start my daily logging pages, I have what I call my pensieve, which is just a big old brain dump for all of the random ideas, tasks, things that I need to accomplish that don't necessarily have like a specific day, or I'm not quite sure when it's happening yet, and I can just dump them all there so I'm not trying to hold on to them floating around in my brain where they will inevitably get lost. So the pensieve has been super, super helpful. The last thing that I've created for this setup is actually going back to the June cover pages, which is before you turn over to the pain chart. So here's the thing, y'all. You gotta work smarter, not harder. I think I probably already said that at least once in this video, but I love all of the beautiful artistic spreads that you can find all over the internet for people who are creating bullet journals, but man, they take so much time and they take so much energy, and if you do not have the time and the energy because you are spending all of your willpower that you have in your entire body to just manage your existence because you're in pain, you're sick, whatever it is, you just don't have time to spend painting these gorgeous portraits every other day, right? For some people that's super, super helpful. For me, I discovered it was a really surefire way to get me to stop journaling. So I had to be okay with just finding alternate ways to create these really interesting spreads that are also super functional. So metallic washi tape has been a big help. My favorite gold gel pen, which you can see highlighted here, has been a big help. And then being okay with just like going to Pinterest and printing out cute artistic things and then just pasting them in my journal so that I'm not worrying about having to come up with the idea myself and spending hours drawing. I can just print something that already exists and just put it in. So here you can kind of see my cover. I've got some tarot cards on the left. Those are from a reading that a friend of mine did for me a few months ago for my birthday. I just used them as kind of an inspiration mindfulness technique at the beginning of the month. And then, oh, the gorgeous paint shot. Isn't she beautiful? I've got everything written out that I want to be tracking, of space for notes on the side. The gold metallic tape on the edges helps me be able to find it no matter where I am in my journal because it sticks out. And then we turn over to what you can see, my moodscape on the left that I will kind of be coloring in as I go. All of the self-care activities I want to keep track of on the top right, all of that physical intimacy and the symptoms that I want to keep track of on the bottom, and then a picture of me from the Valley of Fire out in the desert in Nevada from a few years ago, just as a little inspiration. My big old June calendar. And as you can see on the left, I cut my pages in so that I can see each of the metallic tapes whenever I need them, which has been super useful. And then I've got my July and August little mini calendars, kind of looking ahead that I can write down. Plenty of room for my pensieve to just dump my thoughts. And then starting my first tab, I do a tab for each week. And then the blank pages for my daily logs that will be approaching soon. And yeah, that's how I set up a month in my bullet journal. This has been working really well for me, and I hope that if any of you are looking for a way to maybe jazz up how you track your symptoms for whatever kind of pain or illness you've got going on, or even if you're not chronically ill or in pain all of the time, maybe this is just an interesting thing for you. So this is what works for me. Hope it was mildly interesting. And I'll see you next time. Doodles.